Past the hills and rivers wide, where wildflowers freely bloom. In this land with skies so open, where can our children play? In cities bustling bright and loud, cars and lights that never sleep, do they find a piece of sky? Where can our children play? Bring them fields of green and gold, let their laughter echo clear. In a world so tightly wound, where can our children play? Mountains whisper ancient tales, forests sing in harmony. Will these wonders slip away? Where can our children play? Beyond the screens and towers tall, where dreams once were born and bred, do they carve new paths of joy? Where can our children play? Let's be stewards of this earth, guard the spaces wide and free. Do they find a piece of sky? Where can our children play? Bring them fields of green and gold, let their laughter echo clear. In a world so tightly wound, where can our children play? Bring them fields of green and gold, let their laughter echo clear. In a world so tightly wound, where can our children play?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laurie Gagan, and I am joined today by my colleague and dear friend, Suzanne Roth-Paul. Today, we are going to be talking about an ebook that she published, Poisons in the Pantry. And we're going to get a little in depth, but simple in seed oils. So our podcasts emphasize that nutrient-rich, high-quality food that feed the brain and the gut is the foundation of our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. We address the critical issues of our diets being deficient in essential nutrients, a problem increasingly linked to the rise of emotional well-being and physical health challenges. So, before we get started on this, I'm just going to read a few disclaimers that our listeners on this podcast understand that the role of a health coach is not to prescribe or assess micro or macronutrient levels, to provide healthcare, medical, or nutrition therapy services, or to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease, condition, or other physical or mental ailments of the human body. Rather, the coach is a mentor and a guide who has been trained and certified in holistic health coaching to help clients achieve a healthier lifestyle. We are not acting in the capacity of a doctor, a nutritionist, a psychologist, or any other licensed or registered health professional, and that the advice given by the health coach is not meant to take the place of advice by these professionals. If the listener is under the care of a healthcare professional or currently uses prescription medications, the client should discuss any dietary changes or potential dietary supplement use with their doctor and should not discontinue any prescription medications without first consulting their doctor. The listener understands that the information that Suzanne and I will mention in our talk should not be seen as medical advice and is not meant to take the place of seeing a licensed healthcare professional. So, Suzanne, I'm honored today. You and I are very passionate about the gut and the brain, as well as a numerous amounts of what we see happening, not only in emotional well-being, but what's happening in the body that is suffering with pain. So before we get started and I go down the rabbit hole of asking you those questions, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm delighted to be here with you, Laurie. It's been a while, so thank you so much for having me. It's always so much fun to talk to you about something that we intrinsically know personally from experiences with ourselves, with our families, but also because we are so passionate about helping others understand this and as simply as possible, because this is life changing. If people can wrap their head around what we're talking about and make those healthy changes, they can make their own health, they can bring back their health again. And so I really appreciate being here and honoring my Poisons in the Pantry ebooks. You know that they're my baby, and I'm so proud of them because this last year I spent an inordinate amount of time restructuring them, designing them, creating new material. So I'm really grateful to be here as a health certified health coach and someone that has suffered unbelievably most of my adult life, that goes all the way back to being a young child, with chronic health issues, emotional and physical. So that's why I'm doing my work today.
And that started when you were a young girl, um, possibly living where you were in Texas.
Yes.
Maybe some of the pharmaceuticals maybe that you had to take as a child. So you know more than anyone how it can start when they're young, and then it carries it in to our adult life. And I think a lot of times when it carries into our adult life and we can't seem to find an answer, then that's where we take our own health challenges into our own hands to do the research and become our own health advocate. So, but let's go ahead and get started. So, and then for the listeners, again, she's going to be talking about her Poisons in the Pantry ebook. And what Suzanne has done for all of our listeners today is she has included a $10 off coupon that will make her well sought after ebook only $9.99. I truly believe that her ebook, every household should have it as a reference. Every person that has that should take a look at that and then start going through the pantry. And I know that Suzanne is also available for hire. So if you get to the point where you don't know what to clear out, she's going to give you her information at the end of the podcast, how you can get a hold of her. So yes, a $10 coupon off, making her well sought after ebook only $9.99. So let's get to the first question. What are seed oils? In a simple term, since most people really don't understand, the dangers of seed oil and why they have become so prevalent in modern diets today.
So, yes, that's a big one to unpack, but I do want to tell you that the reason why Lori and I are choosing seed oils today, because that is the number one poison that I have people get rid of first out of their pantry and out of their kitchen. And that's what the free guide is about, is these industrial seed oils. And they're called that because they are literally an industrial waste that has been created so that the industry had something to do with the materials that were left over from all of these oils that they were producing for machinery. So it's actually quite insidious when you think about it, and quite gross when you think about it. But what they did so cleverly was they coined it as a vegetable, that these are basically vegetable oils, because they were using they were using grains to make these oils for the industry, for this, machinery. So somebody had come in and said, well, we've got all this waste material. What can we do with it? So hence where industrial seed oils and that term comes from.
And I noticed you mentioned the word waste. I often think that I'm sure everybody, all our listeners can agree that waste is is not a good word because when we think of waste in the body, we think of a detoxification pathway as urine and stool. We talk about the elimination pathways. So when she's talking about waste, it's the stuff that nobody wants, let alone in their body.
Yeah, and the irony is this product gets into your system that we'll dive into in a second on, these seed oils that we're referring to, and they recirculate. They're not excreted. And this is where all of the chronic disorders are stemming from. And so when we're talking, Lori, let's just unpack an industrial seed oil for those of you who don't know what it is. It's those vegetable oils, canola, corn, safflower, sunflower. Everybody's using sunflower today because somebody in the industry has them believing that it is from a sunflower seed, therefore it's healthy. But the reason is that it's so harmful still is it's still being processed in
Right.
the industrial facilities,
Right.
which is being processed with a ingredient, very harmful ingredient or toxin called hexane. So hexane is a form of gasoline. So these seed oils are being removed, extracted, processed very heavily to make this oil look clear, clean, and simplified for you to cook with. And so by the time they get on your shelves in the grocery store, they are already poisoned. Because if you know anything about oils today and do the comparison of your seed oils on the shelf versus good quality olive oil, good quality avocado oil, any of even your nut oils. I'm not big on nut oils, but let's say that if you are using a macadamia oil or sesame oil, they're always in glass and they're always in dark colored glass because they will deteriorate in light. Well, by the time these seed oils, which are shelf after shelf after shelf at the grocery stores, get to your shelving, they're in plastic and they're in clear plastic at that because they're already dangerous. So they don't need to be
Oh,
protected.
how long they've been sitting on the semi to get from point
Yes.
A to point B. If they're bringing it from California all the way to the East Coast, it's not getting there, in a matter of hours, sometimes
Right.
weeks. And then
Right.
how long does it sit on the shelf?
And so don't forget that cheap things are cheap for a reason. So when you're comparing these oils with a good quality olive oil, again, organic, we want to be emphasizing how important organic is because the flip side of this is the seed oils in and of themselves, the way they're manufactured, are very harmful. But now, where did they come from? What's the source of these seed oils? Well, it's grains. Well, when you think about our soil, which Laurie will talk deeper into, and the growing of these grains, which is corn and wheat and soy, three of the top ingredients that are in so many of our foods today, they are not only non-organic, so they're GMO'd, genetically modified organisms, to produce a bit bigger yield, to prevent from getting weeds in their environment, so that they don't, overtake the plant. And they're being injected with pesticides and herbicides.
Right.
So we're adding fuel to the fire, Lori. And I
Yes.
know you love to talk about that. Why don't you step in and discuss that a little bit?
So, what you're saying with seed oils, let me just interject this. So, you mentioned that they're highly unstable. Well, they're highly unstable and they're prone to oxidation. So, if you think of taking a bite out of an apple, and then you put it down on the counter for 5 minutes and you go back, you see that that apple has started to turn brown. That is oxidation, especially when the seed oils are exposed to high heat during cooking. And when oxidized, these oils produce toxic aldehydes like formaldehydes, things like that, and lipid peroxides, which can directly damage brain cells and contribute to early cognitive decline and memory loss. And we look at what we're seeing right now with the uptick of dementia, Parkinson's, kind of one of the newer ones that I like to talk about that as a Dr. Amen brain coach, I have never heard before. It's called sundowner syndrome. And
Yes.
sundowner syndrome is when the sun goes down, how that memory gets worse. Well, listen, I've been coaching with Dr. Amen for over a decade. And up until the last couple of years, I've not heard of sundowner syndromes, but I know several people who have already passed. So that's basically, that oxidative stress. And, you know, we don't want to kill off our brain neurons. Why? Because they're responsible for our memory, our emotional health, well-being, for our focus and our thoughts, the ability to, honestly, to stay focused, get the uptick in anxiety and depression, even though, I hate that word. I like to use anxious and sad thoughts, but we look at that as well. So thank you for that explanation. So the next question that I would like for you to help me unpack is, some experts warn about the dangers. And I know you're a huge fan of a book that you're going to show here in just a moment, of industrial seed oils. What specific health risks are associated with their consumption on all the vast research that you've heard? And if you want to start off with that book that you love that I haven't purchased yet, it's kind of labeled like your Bible, how a lot of
Yeah, this is called Deep Nutrition, and Dr. Kate Shanahan is the author, and she is the kind of like the wind beneath my wings for writing my ebooks. So the industrial seed oil information is in here, as well as all of the other toxic ingredients that I mentioned in my ebook. It's the first top 6 ingredients, but Kate is the one who brings down to a level that we can comprehend. It's really a great read. I do highly recommend it, on why this is so important that we know this today, because this is not just about a food item that we need to get out of our diet. This is a food item that is actually changing the structure, molecular structure in our brain and in our guts. So the damage is, in many times, not reversible. So what are the 2 biggest concerns today is chronic heart failure and chronic heart disease, and obviously emotional disease and mental health issues. So these industrial seed oils are affecting our brains like never before. And so that's where we're getting the uptick in all of the Alzheimer's and dementia and all of the brain fog and the mental confusion, and so many, probably leading to, Laurie, all of the rampant shootings and killings that are happening in the schools. What's gone wrong with our brain? And it's misfiring and being rewired, and it's being affected by these ingredients. And I just want to mention, Laurie, that we're talking about these seed oils, and they're treated in extremely high heat with this hexane, which is a gasoline. Now go stand next to your car when you're filling up your gasoline, and you can get high on those fumes. Some of us, they smell good, and for most of us, they stink. But as a rule, that's what our oils are turning into, is a gasoline formula. So if they took that raw material and put it in a plastic container and told you to cook with it, you wouldn't do it. But that's what's happening. The processing of this sludge, it's called sludge. It is laden with solvents and deodorizers and bleached to hell and gone, and then so that it can be this flavorless and tasteless and colorless product that you will purchase and then cook with. And so we're adding, again, fuel to the fire, where you're taking a damaged product already and its intrinsic stable, the way how it's shelf stable, then you're putting it in high heat. And Laurie, that is literally where the fuel to the fire happens, because it's not only being cooked at high heat, but think about those fast food restaurants and all of your restaurants where they're reusing
think about like
oil.
McDonald's and Burger King. Back in the day, McDonald's and Burger King used to use tallow, which actually is a pretty good fat. However, right
Absolutely.
now they're using these cheap seed oils, profits over
Right.
people. And yeah, that's what we see. And I'm
You hit
surprised.
the nail on the head. It's cheap. So when you look at when you're comparing, you're not comparing apples to apples when you're looking at all this stuff on the shelving. And that's what I like to teach people. When you're looking at processed foods, there's a difference between, one box of, say, almond milk and another box of almond milk. And so the reason why I'm teaching people to read ingredients is because that is what is causing so much chronic illness today. So
Right.
your mystery symptoms are a result of the ingredients that are harming you. And Laurie, they go back to their toxins in the body. And if you want to talk a minute about why are they so toxic? Well, we mentioned a while ago, they're GMO'd. a
Right.
lot of them. And then they're also sprayed with Roundup, the horrible glyphosate, the ingredient in Roundup. Now,
Right.
Lori, that's your area of expertise.
Yeah.
So,
So let's talk about the continual cleanup. So we'll
yeah,
go back to talking about, oils. There's omega-3, which is anti-inflammatory, and there's omega-6, which is pro-inflammatory. So your body and your brain need a balance because there are times that your body and your brain may need a little of the omega-6. Omega-6, again, pro-inflammatory, omega-3, anti-inflammatory. But what happens are these oils that we're talking about are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, pro-inflammatory, which can create an imbalance when consumed in excess. All
yeah.
the fast foods that people are going to, their French fries and tater tots and whatever else that they're frying. Omega-6 levels can lead to chronic inflammation, which a lot of conventional medicine doctors don't even talk about, Suzanne. We know they're
Yeah,
not looking at root cause, so they never
right.
bring it up,
Yep.
which has been linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. And when you take a look at the uptick in the younger generation, the 40s and 50s, and you see that increase in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia, and uh, their doctor isn't talking about root cause, which I'm going to say shame on them,
Yep.
because root cause is why we are here with so many millions of people are, in the United States with chronic disease. We spend the most amount of money here in America on pharmaceuticals, and we have more sick people in America than almost every other country. And that's why you and I are excited about RFK. Uh,
Well, and that's so true because one of the things about that, Lori, is why is that? Why is chronic disorders exploded right now? And we're one of the sickest nations in the world. And the answer lies especially in the fact that our chronic issues have exploded because of the uptick, as you like to say, Lori, in all of our foods. All of these industrial seed oils, all of these excess sugars, these chemicals, these additions, fillers, all of the things that go into the ingredients that they make our processed food with, it is now in everything. I don't know if you remember, Lori, when I was a kid, the only place a lot of those products were in were at the your fast food restaurants, which we knew were intrinsically bad, but all of your convenience stores, 7-Eleven, Maverick Market, all of those little five and dime places where you could go in and
and Susie Q's.
well, remember going in there with 50 cents and being able to get wads of candy. You got 10 pieces of hard candy or big hunks and all those horrible things that, pulled your teeth out and your fillings and everything else. So that what I'm saying is our industrial food processing, we're calling it, this industrialization of food has catapulted in the decades since we were kids, Lori, and we're in our 50s, 60s in that age range. It was the foods were there, the ingredients were there and bad, but not like today. And
Right.
I like to say the reason for that is because we modern women we're told we can have it all. So we can have children, we can raise a family, and we can have a career. Well, guess what got sacrificed?
Our
Our
health.
home cooked meals.
Yeah, very
And
true.
that's where we're noticing all of this. So Lori's got a body there that she's going to show.
Yeah. So you know what? When I'm coaching with my clients, I often say, what's on the end of your fork matters. And
Yes.
talk about, not everything needs to be organic because quite honestly, not everybody can afford organic. Non-GMO is a better alternative. But we all know by EWG, Environmental Working Group, that some things can be eaten by conventionally being grown. But I always say what's on the end of your fork matters. If you could turn your body inside out and you can see how all of these toxins, I'll include heavy metals and obviously glyphosate, that's my thing, and the seed oils, how it goes down through the lungs, through your heart, has to get to the digestive tract before you can eliminate the waste product. And we haven't even touched base on how important the liver is because the liver has to add enzymes to make these fat soluble oils water soluble so you can eliminate them out of one of the detoxification pathways, urine, stool, sweat. And it's another thing, too, that a lot of conventional medicines don't talk about. What happens, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but it's a really good talk for another time. But what happens if you have inherited bad genes from your parents and you have less ability to eliminate on one of the well-knowns, most people have heard of MTFHR. If you've inherited bad genes where you can't eliminate these, and then what happens is they're reabsorbed in the body, making them worse the second time around. So what's on the end of the fork matters. And if you could turn your body inside out and you could see what you're consuming, and yeah, you may be in your 20s, you may be 25, you may be 30, and you think like, hey, I'm unstoppable. But let's take a look at like potato chips. In your 20s, you may as well, you can eat them and then possibly recover. And then you eat them again over and over and over. And you and I talk about it. But there's going to come a point one day, whether you're in your 30s, whether you're in your 40s, whether you're in your 50s, maybe it's the 60s, because sometimes you inherit good genetics. That the approach that a conventional medicine doctor will have is a prescription for some type of an autoimmune that could have been prevented back in 20s and 30s by just somebody trying to educate them on like what we're trying to do. But let's get to the next question because I know our time's going to be running out. So the next question is, what are some practical steps, Suzanne, that people can take to avoid seed oils in their diet, especially when eating out or buying packaged foods?
Okay, so the simple version of that is you have to know what you're looking for when you are shopping for these products. And when you're eating at restaurants, you have to know what to ask. So if you are reading ingredients and you know that these seed oils that are listed in my free guide, which are the corn, sunflower, corn oil, cottonseed oil, there's a whole list of them that you are going to be reading in your ingredient list and those products you don't want to buy. And what is so important about that is it's not just in one of your products. So I'll just take, for instance, milks are like off the charts popular right now. And I will say that out of all of the 30 something, at least, well, maybe not that many, 10 to 20 different types of milks alternative that you can buy, there's only one or two that are safe to drink because they all.
Give me an example because I know you have something in your toolbox.
Oh,
So let's just bring that one up as an example.
so this is a product called Malk, M-A-L-K. I do believe it's actually from Canada. And this is the only allowable drink that is on my list in my ebooks, by the way. You'll get all of this information, is because it only has 3 or 4 ingredients in it. It's filtered water, organic almonds. This happens to be almond milk, Himalayan pink salt. So that's all you need to really make an almond milk. Now, the reason why they do it in the grocery stores where most of the stores, and they have the seed oils, they have xanthan gums, they have, fillers and additives. They do it for shelf stability, number one, and they do it because it's cheap. So it's also adding, this is a more intense product. Almonds are expensive, especially if it's organic. So this is the reason why you're getting A product versus B product. They're not it's not apples to apples. This is clean. This one is filled with fillers and additives and harmful ingredients. So that's what you have to do when you're learning this process is to really be able to pick up an ingredient and read it. And you have to know what you're reading. And for instance, I give that in my ebook. I give you the list of the ingredients that you want to take out and why. So it's very simple to distill it. Now, the other part of that is, I'm going to mention this really quickly, Lori. This is a shelf-stable product. Now, as a rule, they pasteurize it because in order for it to be shelf-stable, it has to be put up. And this is my emergency milk. This is if I don't have it in the house and I need something quickly, or we have a outage, electrical outage, we can't get to the store. When you're buying this, you don't have the nutrients in it that you do in refrigerated. So you can buy milk also in the refrigerated section. So you want to buy that because it's not been pasteurized and it doesn't have the shelf stability need.
Okay.
So did you ask about restaurants?
Yeah, but before you go to the restaurants, because I think it's really important. So when coaching the clients, and some of them have some anxious thoughts, and we talk about this, and they're like, oh, I can't ask the server that. I can't ask the chef.
Yeah.
I always say, listen, you have one brain. What is more important? The brain that you only have one of, you're never going to grow a second one, or using your brain wisely to just say something like, excuse me, do you know or can you find out? Does this contain this? So, does your food contain wheat? Because wheat does not agree with me. You don't have to say, hey, I've got celiac, hey, I've got gluten sensitivities. You can just say, listen, wheat does not agree with my digestive tract. Guess what? God gave us a brain to use it for wisdom. So it's okay to just say, excuse me, do you know or can you find out? Because the cost of an inflamed brain or a leaky gut is going to cost money downstream. Why? Because the upstream problem is the inflammation that the seed oils and wheat can cause. So go ahead and let's talk about the restaurants. But I wanted to get that out there because there are
Oh,
many people that maybe they just don't feel right asking. But listen, you have to, in order to take your health back, you
yeah.
have to be the one to raise your hand and say, excuse me. So go ahead.
Lori, it's so funny because I have had numerous battles with my own family. My husband and my son are mortified when they first found out that I couldn't eat gluten anymore and I had to ask. I've gotten over it. They need to learn to get over it. I've gotten over it. So now with pride and without embarrassment, and the good news is, I'm able to ask because everybody now has a gluten sensitivity or people are aware of gluten. So they're the first thing the waiter will ask me, is it by choice? Or is it, because you just don't want to eat gluten anymore, or do you have a celiacs? And so it's beautiful. So two things about that. You're going to be needing to go to restaurants that give a damn. So if you're at a restaurant that doesn't give a damn, then you're stuck. You're going to have to eat the crap. And that's why when I go to restaurants like that, I'm usually erring on the side of salads and bringing my own oil and vinegar, olive oil and vinegar to the table, or I am eating vegetables that have been cooked in butter or olive oil. You can ask them if they can give you steamed or sauteed vegetables in olive oil. They usually have one of the two, butter, and usually it's butter, which is fine. And with meats, you just avoid sauces and you avoiding all of those yummy things that we used to think were yummy, but now you'll learn that they're dangerous. And it's painful to actually sit there and watch my family and friends eat that stuff. I have to say, I have to keep my mouth shut. What's that?
Like my glyphosate pizza story.
Like the glyphosate pizza story. So it is painful being Laurie and I to a degree because we know what it's doing to you on the inside. But that's really the simple way to do it is that you just tell people ahead of time if you're eating out, I do have some food sensitivities and I'm going to embarrass you at the table. I hope you're okay with that. And the waiters are really good. They know now. And that's why I'm saying it's really important to pick your battles. If you're traveling and if you're out and about and you do have a gluten sensitivity or a dairy issue, you don't want to eat those things. So you have to just say which on the menu. I just say, here's the menu. What can I eat on this? I'm gluten sensitive and I don't eat dairy. I can eat it, but I don't prefer it. What do you recommend? And they will go through and they'll say, you can have this, 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 or this. Well, out of 10 or 15 things, I can only have 3, but that makes the house, makes the whole environment more comfortable.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to add something to what you said. We say that and we educate our clients because one, we care for you.
Yeah.
We want to give you the education that you may not be getting from your doctor or for our family members. It's because we love you and we want you around for a long time. I
Yeah.
mean, we just do.
Yeah.
This is our career. This is our wheelhouse. This is where we do the research, and we follow the science. And we just don't follow all the, hey, come eat at McDonald's or Burger King because it tastes delicious. Tasting delicious is not always healthy.
Well, and once you change your diet, there's two things to that. Once you start eating well, those foods don't agree with you anymore, those crappy ones. And when you do have them because you're in an emergency, you're traveling, you're at somebody's house, you don't feel good. And then that's when once people are aware what it feels like to feel good, then when they do have stuff that makes them feel bad, they know right away. But the other thing, Lori, I was going to mention, because we're big on brain health and we're big on anger management, people that have issues with, blowing up unnecessarily, they are impatient. All of these things are effective. They're created by your nervous system out of whack. And so when you're living with people that are eating badly, you're getting that wrath of them. And so that's really one of the things that Lori and I talk about a lot, that these foods are impacting your emotional stability.
Well, they
And so
blamed brain not to cut you off.
Exactly. And Lori and I connected because I was having brain issues about 5 or 6 years ago. And we had maybe less than that. I've lost track of time, but we were really concerned for the health of my brain. And it was stress levels that were causing I was eating clean. I was doing well, but I had an unbelievable amount of stress in my life. And so when you're compacting, let's talk, Lori, there's emotional stress that's caught on by outside sources, your relationships, your job, whatever it is that you're doing that's causing all these issues. And then you have the stress that is in your body by the foods that you're eating. So
Right.
don't ever forget that these foods are causing stress. It's adding insult to injury.
Right. So you know what? I'm going to unpack something a little bit further before I get to the couple of the final questions. So eating these seed oils, I mean, people have to remember, and they probably have never even been told that before, unless you've like talked to Suzanne, myself as a Dr. Amen brain certified health coach, or you've been to a Dr. Amen clinic, is that the brain is nearly 60% fat. Some studies will say 66% fat. And the fats that we consume directly influence the composition of our brain cell memories. Seed oils can alter the structure of these brain cell membranes, making them more vulnerable to inflammation and dysfunction, potentially impacting focus, memory, mental clarity, and research has shown that diets high in omega 6, if you recall, omega 3s are anti inflammatory, omega 6s are pro inflammatory, but diets higher in omega 6 fatty acids are associated with higher rates of depression, higher rates of anxiety, and even schizophrenia. Why? Because these oils interfere with dopamine, which is that chemical, a neurotransmitter in your brain, and serotonin, your ability to stay calm and switch that gear shifter from negative thoughts and overwhelming thoughts that we like to call automatic negative thoughts. They interfere with those neurotransmitters, crucial for mood and mental stability. Now, when's the last time you heard that from your medical doctor? Anyway, let's get
Thank
into
you, Doctor. Hey, Lori, can I just mention before, I know we're going to wrap up here in a second, but I have to mention two things. People are going to ask, why are they allowed in art? Why are these foods even being allowed? So that's what's going on with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. right now. Bobby is out there, busting open wide. These corporations are choosing profits over people. So do not forget, this stuff is cheap to make. So when you can put all this crap in your foods, people are going to lap it up because it's, we've all got a budget issue and the cost of inflation of our food's outrageous. So people are going to go for this cheaper stuff, and they don't know all the symptoms that these cause. But the main thing is, you guys, is it's cheap for a reason because the industry is making a profit off of you because you're buying cheap crap. But the other part of it is you're sick. And so now the medical profession is making profit over you because you're buying all of their pharmaceuticals. So it's like this, it's a rat race, and that's what's going on in our political arena right now. It's all being busted, these corporations, which we're in hallelujah on. But you guys, this was what Dr. Kate Shanahan says is so brilliant. She says, when you're eating these industrial seed oils, it's causing your clogged arteries. Everybody's got, clogged artery strokes or on the rise right now. She says they literally crack it gets clogged up with the gunk of these. Imagine this sludge is getting into all of your arteries and slowing down your circulatory system, which messes up everything. Your arteries are literally being torn, they crack like a French fry. She says your arteries are like a French fry. So if you're eating French fries all the time, guess what's happening to your arteries? They're turning into a French fry. So that's what's causing all of the tears, the strokes because of people's diets. And I just thought that was fascinating. When you put the two and two together, then you can really understand why these are so harmful.
Right. And before we get to the last question, let me just add this. This is how I explain it to the clients that I work with. So I do a lot of podcasts with Dr. Richard Fleming, who is an MD, a JD. He's a nuclear physicist in cardiovascular disease. So he wrote the book. I love his book, Stop Inflammation Now. However, so if you think of like the arteries going to the heart, such as we'll think of the Pac-Man game. And basically what happens is when people start having heart issues, they're going to go in, the doctor may do an ultrasound, they may do a CAT scan, they may do, say, hey, you need to get an angiogram. But if you think of all of the seed oils, all of this saturated fat, that is not good for the heart. It's not good for any organ in the body for that matter. But what ends up happening is that your white blood cells, they're going and they're eating up all of these saturated fats, all of the bad stuff from the seed oil. But the problem is you can't see it in heart disease until it has permeated the membrane to the heart. So because what ends up happening are these seed oils, the saturated fats that they're creating are on the outer layer of a cell membrane. They haven't like perforated yet. So when they go and they do the test to look at heart disease, it'll come back and the doctor will say, oh, yeah, no, you seem fine. We just ran this test. But until the saturated fat can come out, there is no test that I am aware of from Dr. Richard Fleming, except his patent that he has, which you can't find it anywhere because he's still looking for the development on it. But until the saturated fat from these toxic seed oils has permeated that, then and only then, when your doctor runs the test, will they say, listen, you've got toxins, seed oils, all of the crap that they're eating, and it is leading to heart disease until, boom, somebody has a heart attack.
Right.
And
Or
so,
a stroke.
yeah, yeah. So the
Yeah.
Pac-Man mentality, I mean, you look at the Pac-Man game, what do is they gobble up. So your white blood cells are like the Pac-Man. But pretty soon your white blood cells, they get sick and they explode. And you're hoping that you have enough of the macrophages, the larger white blood cells, that can come in and gobble up the disease or the toxins that has been done with these cells exploding from apoptosis, which is really cell suicide. And
Exactly.
if that can't happen, guess what? The Pac-Man, your white blood cells get sick, and that's when it starts permeating the cell. But last question.
And that, by the way, Laurie, is where cancer starts. Don't
Yeah,
forget that we all have cancer cells, but that's the beginning of cancer. So
right.
cancer's not mystery, everybody. They know where it comes from, and it is your toxic burden load. And we're talking environmental toxins and we're talking food toxins. So it's not that simple, but it basically means you can start with a good, healthy diet.
Right. These toxins that burden your body will turn up in symptoms at some stage in your life. Nobody is immune to them. But last
Okay.
question, Suzanne. Are there any healthy alternatives to seed oils that still provide the same cooking versatility and nutritional benefits?
Yeah, good news is there are, and they have a bad mouth them and put them on the bottom of the list. Heart disease, they're causing all of the chronic heart diseases, they're causing all of the weight gain, and that goes back to Lori mentioned it earlier, tallow. Beef tallow is actually just animal fat, beef fat, but it's very important that you get it organic and you don't eat it all the time. But the top ones are still your avocado oils and your olive oils. But what I'm finding, Lori, is we're using too much of those at high heat still. So you want to use those more at moderate heats and you want to use them for finishing oils. And I would say, avocado oil is still pretty good for high heat. You've got coconut oil is really, really good, but it does, if you love coconut flavoring, it's going to be a great one for you. And my personal favorite is ghee butter because I do have a little bit of a lactose intolerance. And so I have to be careful. And I love the flavor of ghee. Not everybody does. So I highly recommend you try it. All organic again, by the way. And fermented if you can find it. Butter is good. Grass-fed butter is still really acceptable. Like in restaurants, you can ask for butter. Don't worry about if it's organic or not. It's better than seed oils. Lard and bacon fat in pork fat is pretty good. I don't use that a lot, but that's an option. And of course, I said tallow from lamb and mutton and beef. And then there is a palm oil. Lori, I don't know where you fall on that. Palm oil's gotten a bad rep now because they're basically tearing apart the rainforest and they're not sustainable. But you can find sustainable palm oil, and it's in a lot of crap in fast food, processed foods. All of your like grocery stores that have processed foods have palm oil, and you think, oh, that's healthy. No, it's not. It's actually non-organic, GMO'd, and it's tearing apart the rainforest. Some of your nut oils, macadamia, walnut, and almond, I personally don't use them because I eat those nuts a lot. So I want them to eat as opposed to put as an oil. Sesame seed oil on a moderation, and that's pretty much it. Did you have a question about
Yeah.
another oil?
I mean, that explained it. So we're going to do a part two that will be launching. We're still in the process of recording that. We're going to actually talk about products, the good,
Yes.
the bad,
Yes.
and we'll be talking about that. But Suzanne, how can our listeners find you? Obviously, you're giving a $10 coupon off for
Yes.
your fabulous ebook, which I believe should be in every house as an education tool.
And this
So,
is only a few pages. There's not a lot of pages. This is the number one oil you want to remove from your kitchen and pantry, and it's the seed oils. And then in the back, you're going to find a 50% coupon, and you click on it on your. This is all an e-guide. You click on that, you're going to get a coupon to upgrade to my 20-page ebook that really goes and dives deep. So if you really want to know more about what is inside all of these ingredients, and then you want to know all of the what to do's, I give you solutions. I'm not about telling you to take things out and then leaving you on your own, which is what happened to me 20 years ago. This is why I created these ebooks so that you have what I wished I had when I was suffering on my own in my late 40s. So yeah, and you can find me on right now. I have a website, secretstoRadiantHealth.com, and these books are in there. And you can click on them. You can find everything there. And then I also have a YouTube channel, and it's representing a product that I represent. But it's just you want to listen to me live, talk about all kinds of wellness and health stuff. It's Suzanne Roth-Paul LifeWave. And then Laurie and we did a couple of talks. We're going to post this one on mine too. I have a Secrets to Radiant Health podcast as well. It's a little harder to find, but there's not a lot on that yet. But that'll be talking more about the health and wellness and that sort of thing. But my website's the best.
okay, and one more time, your website, can you just say it a little bit slower, and is it Singer?
Yeah, secrets to radianthealth.com.
Oh, all right. Well, this was fabulous. It was short.
Oh, I'm on Instagram too. Instagram is at Your Wellness Designer. And I also have these ebooks there to click on my link tree. So you can find them there as well.
Perfect. All right. Easter's coming up. Everybody should buy one for their sister, their brother. Suzanne has spent decades, but when she was researching her book, she has years developing this book, her years of research, and implement it and put it into your pantry and start cleaning it out. Listen, we're either going to spend our money on our sickness or we're going to spend money on our well-being. And with that said, thank you so much. I love you so much. And I'm always so honored to have these podcasts with you. You are just, you're radiant and you're brilliant and you inspire me. So thank you very much. And
Thank you, Laurie. The feeling is mutual, dear. Love you too.
I look forward to part two.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Ciao.